Mia is my name. I am a 35-year-old office worker. Oliver, my lover, moved back recently after working in London. In our 10 years together, we have experienced some rough times, but we have always been able to work through our issues. As long as he was with me, it didn't matter if my ideal of getting married in my 20s didn't come true. I was satisfied. We made the decision to inform our parents of our engagement at this time. He said, "Who should we see first?" I took a brief break. "Well, yeah, I answered, surprising him, "but no, I'm not going to reconsider. I'm so glad to have you back." But his mother appeared in the recesses of my memory. A shadow of her presence in our life hovered over our marriage. I was about 25 when I first met her, about 10 years ago. After work, Oliver and I ran into her on the street. "What are you doing, Oliver?" she said. "Oh, are you on a date?" Introducing herself as his mother, Angela, I was amazed at how young she looked. Considering she was 47 at the time, she was stunning, I remarked, reaching in to give you a cheek kiss. "It's nice meeting you too. I'm Mia." She took in my looks, looking me up and down. I tried not to get too attached to my physique, but her remarks about it took me by surprise. Oliver had just walked out to the restroom when Angela started talking. With a sly smile, she replied, "I could tell Oliver was seeing someone and was hoping you would be prettier, not just your face, but your body too, plump if I may say so." She was so disrespectful that it surprised me. Oliver came back before I could reply, "You're back, huh?" In an attempt to ignore Angela's remarks, I said, "I was having a nice conversation with Mia." Oliver came back, and that's when Angela changed. Grinning, she played the role of the ideal mother. I was taken aback by the abrupt change. "Hey, what's your mother like?" I asked Oliver as we were saying our goodbyes. "It's gorgeous," he answered. "Yeah. She used to have a reputation for it in her town and even won the local beauty pageant." It appears that she is still quite committed to looking after herself. She actually appeared at least 15 years younger than her true age, so she doesn't look bad for her age at all. However, her personality is a whole other matter. Oliver appeared proud of her, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him she would become my mother-in-law if I married him, and I was already uncomfortable with the idea at the time. Oliver was dispatched to work overseas shortly after the incident, and that was 10 years ago. Our intentions for an engagement were postponed when he departed for London. It was a long time before I saw Angela. Oliver remarked, "Are you feeling uneasy about our marriage?" As I was engrossed in my thoughts, I recognized, "Your father must be worried that you will marry me," I answered, attempting to ignore my pessimistic feelings. "I apologize. I became mired in unpleasant recollections from the past. It truly isn't that much. All I have is the pre-marriage blues. Don't worry, I'm determined to wed you." I made an effort to smile for him. It wasn't like I was getting married to my mother-in-law, after all. Besides, I assured myself, 10 years had passed, she had to have changed, but that was just wishful thinking. I was heading to Oliver's residence with him the next weekend. We were only getting something he forgot. It wasn't for the engagement announcement. Tickets for the movie we were going to see were left by him. We didn't have time to get lunch beforehand, but at least we had hot dogs and popcorn because of him. "Oh, we'll probably make it on time," I said to myself. "I'll be right back. Please wait here." He barged through the front door with such force the moment we stepped into his house. "Why all the racket, Oliver? You're back already?" Angela's voice rang out, catching sight of him. When the commotion drew her to the porch, she greeted me with a surprised, "Good afternoon," to which I attempted a smile. Her subsequent burst of laughter followed by the remark, "Oh my God, it's you from 10 years ago." That plum picket left me questioning if she was referring to me. The realization that Oliver hadn't parted ways with Angela in all these years left me astounded. He's got a peculiar taste. I never thought he'd still be with the same girl. Why not find someone younger? Angela mused with a sly grin, leaving me taken aback. "Excuse me," I interjected, taken aback by her audacity. "Don't you agree? He's an elite, back from London. I'm sure there are plenty of girls after him. You seem to have lost a bit of weight, but you've aged. You were in your 20s 10 years ago, so in your 30s now. Oh no, you're almost a grandma," she continued, her words dripping with condescension. When Oliver hurriedly emerged onto the porch, apologizing for the delay in finding a ticket, I couldn't find the words to respond to Angela's taunts. He whisked me away, and I couldn't bring myself to divulge what Angela had said. How would he react? I couldn't deny the unease settling within me. With Angela's presence looming, I couldn't see a happy future in my marriage. Lost in uncertainty, I pondered my next move. Weeks later, Oliver and I broke the news of our engagement to my parents, who, despite their initial reservations, offered their support. When we contemplated breaking the news to Oliver's parents, his reassurance offered a semblance of comfort. The impending gathering at his parents' house, where Angela would undoubtedly be present, filled me with trepidation, but with Oliver by my side, I felt a glimmer of reassurance amidst the nerves. I felt a surge of tension as we arrived at your place to break the news to your parents. Don't worry about my folks, they're pretty laid back. Plus, you've already met my mom, you reassured me, but that was precisely why I was on edge. I screamed internally, hello, I assume you're Mia. Oliver's father is myself, Ken. We came onto the porch, and Ken gave me a warm greeting. Hi, welcome. From behind him came Angela's voice, and my heart skipped a beat. Her elaborate makeup gave the impression that she was getting ready for a lavish event. Her eyes were glittery, and even though her dress was simple, she had a sophisticated look that made it obvious that she was trying to draw attention to her attractiveness. I looked over my outfit in private and made sure my stockings, dress, and accessories fit perfectly. My hair was blow-dried to perfection, and I had applied a new coat of lip gloss while touching up my makeup in the car. She leaned forward to whisper, "You got lip gloss on your teeth." As Angela walked by, naturally, my hand flew to cover my mouth, but I checked under my fingers and nothing was there. Angela had only wanted to make me uncomfortable. When Ken and Angela walked back inside, I put my mirror back in my purse and looked at my phone, thinking that today would determine the future of our relationship. "We're going to get married, Mom. You said you've already met Mia, and I couldn't help but smile at you. I'm excited to be a member of your family," I continued, wanting to seem genuine. Ken smiled back at us, appreciating the wonderful news. "Yes, this is fantastic news. We don't object if you two have chosen," he said, turning to face Angela. "Well done," Angela added with a forced smile. Fortunately, the remainder of the evening went well as we had light chat while sipping cocktails. I was afraid Angela would argue, so I exhaled a breath of relief when I saw that everything was going well. "Oh, goodness, it's getting late," Angela remarked, glancing at the clock on the wall. "I'm sorry, I didn't have time to prepare dinner tonight. Should we just order pizza?" "Oliver, can you guys go and pick up some takeout?" Angela suggested, ushering them off the sofa. "Why go out when we can just call?" Oliver questioned, but Angela insisted, citing the need for more beer, wine, and snacks. When they reluctantly left the house at Angela's behest, her demeanor shifted the moment the door closed behind them. "Oh, it's finally come to this point. You're such a brazen woman, aren't you?" she remarked, lounging back on the sofa. "I've been telling you that you don't deserve Oliver. You don't even have the decency to back out on your own," Angela continued, her tone sharp with disapproval. "You know, he could find a more beautiful and younger woman, but before he realizes it, you've ensnared him, refusing to let go like a predator with its prey. What about me do you dislike?" I countered, taken aback by her hostility. "Everything, all of you. You're not a beauty, yet you're about to steal my son from me," Angela spat, her contempt palpable. "But he loves me, and I don't think I'm particularly beautiful myself," I protested, trying to reason with her. Angela scoffed, leaning in close. "But if you two have a baby, it's my grandchild. I won't accept a grandchild who isn't even pretty." I went to all the trouble of finding good-looking genes, and if his wife is ugly, it would dilute the DNA. When she got closer, she continued, her voice brimming with hatred. "I will never accept you as family if you marry Oliver. I'll do whatever it takes to ruin your union, after which I'll track down a young woman who shares my beauty for him." I balled my fists, feeling the weight of her words. "So, you'll be satisfied if I left right now?" I asked, bracing myself for her answer. "Yes, leave immediately and permanently." "Recognize," Angela gave a chilly response, her eyes unblinking. I bowed, my resolve unwavering. "I would do as you wish." "It's fantastic." Telling Oliver and Ken lies has no purpose. To them, I've always been a loving mother and a devoted wife. Angela stood up, towering over me, and said, "Nobody's going to believe you. Never again display your repulsive visage." She spat, "My eyes hurt just looking at you," and then started crying suddenly as soon as she heard the door open, indicating Oliver and Ken were back. "What? Hold on." As soon as the two guys entered the room, I felt a rush of terror sweep over me, and Angela wasted no time in casting me as the bad guy. "Oh my God, Mia was making fun of me when you guys were out." Her comments cut through the air when she bemoaned, "I can't get along with someone like her." I was in disbelief. When have I ever degraded her? Perplexed by her charges, I objected. She said I'd said she would lie about us if we ever got dementia and that she would not take care of us when we got old and would rather see us go from this life as soon as possible. God, I'm at a loss for words. I'm afraid of her, she said. Looking to Ken for encouragement, "My God, Mia," Ken scolded, disappointment etched on his face. "You seem nice, but you're such a lonesome person," he added, echoing Angela's sentiments. "No, Ken, I've never said those things. I'm the one who was degraded," I insisted, attempting to refute Angela's claims, but Angela cried out, labeling me a liar and demanding proof. Before Oliver could interject, I halted him. "If you want proof, there's no evidence of me degrading Angela, right?" I challenged, hoping to quell the escalating tension. "Well, you're right," Ken conceded, his demeanor subdued. Without tangible evidence, the argument seemed futile, but I had prepared for this moment. "What?" Angela exclaimed, dropping her victim facade and shouting in disbelief. She never imagined I would have proof. "Since I arrived, I have been recording on my phone, jotting down the numerous times she has spoken something to me. I took measures since I believed it would happen again," I said, taking out my phone from my purse and putting the replay on. Angela's outburst reverberated throughout the living room, her spiteful remarks exposed for everyone to hear. Oliver grabbed her and stopped her from lunging at me, yelling, "Stop it, Mom, give up, Oliver, it's true what they say." "Mom, this is enough," I said, maintaining my composure in the face of the mayhem engulfing us. Oliver became emotional when the realization of his mother's actual nature set in. Though I had some pity for him, it didn't change my mind. I had put up with Angela's verbal abuse for 10 years, but now I was not going to back down. While I consider myself rather ordinary, she takes enormous pride in the way she looks, but, regardless of how beautiful she seems on the outside, I find something ugly about her in her heart. I just cannot entertain the idea of her becoming my mother-in-law. I will not wed Oliver and put myself through a life where she controls me. "Hold on, Mia." Oliver grabbed my arm in response. "I'm sorry about my spouse. Let's discuss this further." However, I was unable to ignore my emotions. I told Oliver, "It's not just her. I can't bring myself to call her mother anymore. Would you want to remain with such a woman?" I questioned him, turning to face him. "No," he firmly answered. "So, I've decided to take Mia's last name, as her father wished." Surprised, Angela cried out, "What? The CEO and founder of the company I work for is her father?" Understanding the ramifications, I went on, "He asked me to take on his last name in order to keep the family name alive during our most recent visit to their house. After giving it some thought, I've decided on it." Oliver hugged me and his eyes filled with tears, whispering, "I have nothing to say." He said, "I'm sorry you had to make such a significant decision because of this. Rest confident, everything will be okay. We'll make sure your mother doesn't get in the way. I'll speak with her." However, I wavered at that point. As soon as I told Ken, "There's something else," Ken noticed. He gave me a perplexed expression. I clarified that Oliver had heard a tape that contained startling information. I felt Ken should have the truth as well, even if it might hurt. I steeled myself and remarked, "I imagine you'll be rather occupied from now on. Perhaps you'll even consider a DNA test and other measures." With a determined press of the start button on my phone, I initiated a game. Ignoring his attempts to intervene, it was too late. I had already taken the initiative, despite my efforts to secure seats next to an attractive man to ensure the potential beauty of our future child. The revelation of his wife's appearance threatened to dilute the genetic equation. His reaction was immediate. His nostrils flared in indignation. I shuddered to recall the chaos that ensued. Ken intervened, pulling apart Angela and Oliver. While I did my best to assist, Angela's emotions overflowed, prompting a commotion that drew the attention of concerned neighbors and ultimately the police. Months later, Oliver and I exchanged vows, his legal surname now different, severing ties with Angela while maintaining a connection with Ken. A DNA test confirmed that Ken wasn't his biological father, yet their bond remained unshaken after more than 3 decades. Should we welcome a child into our lives in the future, we'll proudly introduce them as Ken's grandchild. Angela, now divorced and rejected even by her own parents, has left us pondering her uncertain future. Her penchant for spreading negativity, despite her erstwhile comfortable life, casts a shadow over her prospects. I fear that the challenges ahead may transform her into a true antagonist, reminiscent of the infamous Wicked Witch from the West. That's all about the first story, and now let's watch another similar story. You don't have any kids anymore. How flawed you are to not even be able to brag about having grandchildren. I was taking a little break from my work on a park bench when a woman came up to me. Her tone of voice and the expression in her eyes were distinctly patronizing. She was the one, without a doubt. I was speechless, stunned by our unexpected meeting. Why would she raise her children in such a manner out of the blue? I told the woman in front of me the truth while trying to hide my uncertainty. My child is right there, you know. The woman's eyes widened in surprise at that time. Kelly Omar is my name. And I'm 37 years old. I'm happily married and have a child now, but I had to overcome a lot of challenges to get here. My story begins in my high school years. Finn and I started dating in our first year of college. I was never particularly adept at chatting to people when I was younger. I had a hard time fitting in and made few friends. It was isolating. I used to wonder if things might have turned out differently if I had been more gregarious. I've overanalyzed things since elementary school. In middle school, I made a resolution to take initiative and make more friends. But I never followed through on it. I was positive that this was how I would always be if I didn't change in high school. Considering that I would be attending a different high school than my close pals, I felt I had to make a change. My personality didn't alter throughout high school, though. I was always alone in a corner of the classroom, reading or pretending to sleep, while others made new acquaintances and had a good time. I was simply private all the time. I can still recall how often I sobbed at home because I felt like such a bad person. Then something that would fundamentally alter my life occurred one day. The school's frequent seat changes, which happened multiple times a year, were the catalyst for everything. I mean, I didn't think switching seats would really affect my life, and I would keep living alone, unafraid and without much expectation. Finn was sitting next to me when I moved my desk to the location shown on the lottery card. "Are you Kelly Omar? It's good to meet you," I answered. Yeah, nice to meet you too." Finn, with whom I had not previously interacted much, spoke to me politely. I was happy to realize that I wasn't an anomaly because I always got the feeling that Finn was kind to everyone. However, I assumed this would be the final instance. Neither our mutual hobbies nor our middle school were the same. I had assumed that our communication would be limited to when we needed to communicate, but my expectations were completely unmet. Finn began to actively participate in our chats. It was merely small talk at first, but as the days passed, our conversations became more and more diversified. I was hesitant to talk to Finn at first, but eventually we were able to have friendly conversations. I never would have thought that this would occur. I reveled in the happiness of making a new friend. Although it may sound dramatic, pals held a very particular place in my heart. I was a sophomore in high school a year later. I sighed with relief that Finn and I were back in the same class. Then, unexpectedly, one day, Finn told me how he felt. I was shocked since I had never imagined having my confession made. "I've enjoyed you forever." He spoke uncomfortably. "I know it's surprising, but I've been hoping we could date." I didn't feel disgusted, though. Rather, I wondered if someone like me was truly adequate for him. With hesitation, I questioned, "Am I good enough to be your girlfriend?" Avoid saying that. Finn proceeded to communicate his sentiments. "I want you, Kelly, but I'm not going to force you." With a downcast expression on his face, I acknowledged his feelings and said, "I'd be delighted to hang out with you." "Finn, are you serious? That's fantastic." Finn's expression lit up with happiness. My life took a big turn once we started dating. On my solitary commutes, Finn was always by my side. Finn used to take me out on the weekends when I used to remain home, which made my life more fulfilling than it had been. I didn't know if Finn was considering our future together, but I wanted to experience life beside him. I thought so since I loved him so much. We started going to one another's houses more often as the days went by. As a result, I got to know Finn's family, and he got to know mine, frequently striking up a discussion when he was here. My parents held him in the highest regard. "It's unbelievable that you're seeing such a great guy." Knowing that I'm an introvert, my parents were taken aback when I informed them I had a boyfriend. "You found a good man," they said. After some time, Finn and I received our high school diplomas. While Finn attended medical school to pursue his dream of becoming a doctor, I studied economics at a nearby college. He was now moving closer to his aim of becoming a doctor, which he had always expressed a desire to become. He had my utmost regard for that. We lived together even though we attended different colleges. Rather, we tried to coordinate our schedules and get together whenever we could. Finn was occupied with his coursework and preparation in order to become a doctor. After some time, I obtained a job at a nearby company and graduated from college. At that point, Finn and I were living alone and would visit each other's houses whenever we had free time. After 2 years, Finn completed his medical school education and fulfilled his long-held goal of becoming a doctor. After 2 more years, when we had both established into our careers, Finn asked me to marry him. "I want to stay in your life forever. Are you going to marry me?" Naturally, I couldn't say no to Finn's proposal because I had always seen ourselves together in the future. Feeling like I was living in a dream, I accepted with joy. I enjoyed the excitement of getting asked out and thought about our future together. The intimacy between us didn't change even after I proposed to Finn. Throughout the difficult process of preparing for the wedding and registration, we helped each other out. I reveled in my marriage to Finn, but then something unexpected happened. Kelly, can we cancel the marriage?" I was taken aback by his abrupt suggestion. "What do you mean?" I questioned as a knot of nervousness began to build in my stomach. "Exactly what I stated. Let's end this meeting now." What had gone wrong, and why? Has his love for me soured? Regardless of how much I considered it, I couldn't fathom Finn's sudden desire to break off our engagement. We had already integrated our families and made extensive arrangements. How could he abruptly revoke his commitment? I couldn't come to terms with it. I offered to take responsibility and pay alimony, but he remained adamant about his decision to not marry me. Despite my persistent inquiries, Finn only offered apologies without any explanation. Eventually, the engagement was dissolved. Although he proposed alimony, I couldn't bring myself to accept it. I just wanted to move on from him as swiftly as possible. Informing my parents of the broken engagement only deepened their sorrow, as if they were grieving their own loss. This burden of guilt weighed heavily on me. I questioned why Finn had called off our engagement. Had his feelings towards me changed, or had he found love elsewhere? Was I the only one who believed our relationship was thriving? Without any insight from Finn, I was left to ruminate alone, which proved incredibly frustrating. For a period, I drifted through life feeling hollow, unable to focus on work or find joy in anything. However, 6 months later, I unexpectedly learned the truth behind Finn's decision. One day, my mother summoned me home, where I was greeted by Yasmin, my sister, wearing a smug expression. Despite her unwelcome presence, she insisted on sharing something significant. Her cryptic remarks only heightened my skepticism. What could she possibly have to say that warranted this summons? With a smirk, Yasmin hinted at something joyful, leaving me wary of her intentions. When she returned to the living room, I couldn't help but doubt her words and feared what news she might bring. I anticipated Yasmin's announcement to be a fabrication, and suddenly, anxiety flooded me, urging me to leave. Despite our family gathering around the dining table, typically a source of cheer, Yasmin's presence cast a palpable tension, yet, she remained undeterred, persisting in discussing her agenda. Despite our years of living together, I couldn't decipher Yasmin's intentions. Feeling an unsettling aura around her. Then, amidst the meal, Yasmin initiated a conversation with a cheerful tone that instantly suffocated me, struggling to compose myself. I strained to listen when she dropped the bombshell. I couldn't believe my ears. Yasmin was marrying Finn, my former fiancé. The shock reverberated through me, mirrored by the astonishment on our parents' faces. Yasmin, however, showed no remorse, gleefully detailing their plans. When the reality sank in, I found myself grappling with the accusation that Yasmin had manipulated Finn away from me. Our parents' outrage was only heightened by Yasmin's obvious lack of regret. I was so overwhelmed by the circumstances that I could only repeat them in shock. I was left dumbfounded by Yasmin's casual attitude toward the chaos she caused, and the happy occasion of marriage felt tarnished. I stood there dumbfounded, my head still filled with the sound of Yasmin's high-pitched laughter. Since her early years, Yasmin had disliked me deeply. Her words, "I wish you were never born," were still fresh in my mind even before I started kindergarten. Her bitterness never went away as we grew older. She blamed me for everything from destroyed moods to shared resources, viewing me as a barrier to her happiness. I turned become Yasmin's punching bag whenever she got upset. Even when she was happy, my presence appeared to make her mood worse. She would verbally abuse me all the time, and I could never defend myself for fear of being accused of talking back. We had a poisonous relationship in which Yasmin constantly took the blame. Even when she was the one who started it, I was used to getting chastised and wrongly accused for Yasmin's misdeeds. She persisted in manipulating circumstances to make me appear to be the bad guy, even though our parents were aware of her actions. Because of Yasmin's deception, I had to repeatedly apologize to teachers for occurrences that I did not cause. It was an everyday battle, full of pain and contempt, to live with Yasmin. I didn't get a break from her persistent harassment until I moved out on my own. Still, there were brief intervals during which Yasmin's demeanor softened. Along with my friendship with Finn, Yasmin's attitude changed dramatically when I brought Finn into the family. She suddenly seemed curious, even approving, and she started asking us all kinds of questions and compliments. It was clear that Yasmin had feelings for Finn, which made our relationship even more tense. She may have developed a fresh admiration for him, but I couldn't get over my uneasy feeling that Yasmin had a hidden agenda when she gave her consent. He's always been serious about studying, therefore he helps me out a lot with it. Yasmin listened to my confession with a sneer on her face and inquired as to which medical school he was targeting. I pretended to be ignorant since I didn't want to tell her too much. I tried to stop Yasmin from teasing him, but she insinuated that she would make a better partner for Finn. Her incessant teasing irritated me and made me angry. It was not lost on everyone how Yasmin had been treating Finn. Finn finally stopped coming to see us at all, even after I apologized to her for what had happened. Though I had hoped that this would be the last time I saw Yasmin, fate had other ideas. I was caught off guard by Finn's choice to wed Yasmin. As much as I tried, I was unable to understand it. The pain was made worse by Yasmin's gloating over her upcoming marriage to Finn. I was emotionally spent by both my parents' rage and her insensitivity to my feelings. Yasmin persisted in harassing me even after my parents tried to kick her out, but there was still something more, something I could not stand to look at Yasmin's face any longer. Why Finn? I finally mustered the question I had been holding back. Why specifically choose someone else's fiancé? Yasmin answered with unexpected ease and a voice full of unbridled confidence. Because he's a doctor, the woman proclaimed. I had my sights set on him when I found out about his ambition. I followed him on social media, and I took advantage of the moment he reached his objective. The rest, well, you are aware of how that turned out. I was stunned by her response. It had more to do with Finn's career than just the fact that he was my sister's fiancé. However, how could he have been duped? Was Yasmin's insistence just too much for him to handle? It also didn't set well with me that he shared his social media accounts with her. He was clearly vulnerable, even with his calm exterior. I was just curious as to why, I said, experiencing a mixture of frustration and rage. The unrepentant laughter of Yasmin upset our parents even more. We were all shocked when our father dragged Yasmin out of the house with force after an angry outburst. She had passed a line that none of us had anticipated. Yasmin's last words rang in my ears when she was ejected, leaving a sour aftertaste. But maybe this was the last straw that broke our knotted relationship. It was with some satisfaction that I realized 10 years had gone by since that turbulent period. I had led a tranquil life, staying in no communication with Yasmin. However, one day, while I was enjoying a cup of coffee alone on a park bench during the cold weather, a woman's voice interrupted my peace. Are you still childless? The voice mocked. What a disappointment you are, unable to even boast of grandchildren, evoking painful memories right away. I turned to see Yasmin, who appeared slimmer than previously but was still very much Yasmin. This unexpected reconnection left me dumbfounded, and her abrupt intrusion left me unable to speak. Why bring up children all of a sudden? I asked, trying not to show how confused I was. Actually, my child is right there, I responded, gesturing to a close toddler. Yasmin's stunned eyes grew wider. What? That is not possible. Are you not alone? Actually, I'm married, I admitted, anticipating her response. After Finn ended our engagement, I found love and married a colleague from my company named Arthur. Yasmin seemed genuinely surprised. Wed, however, following the theft of your fiancé, I never thought. I firmly interrupted. There's no rule saying I can't move on. I got married to someone else. Regarding your inferences about my private life, they are also unimportant. Yasmin appeared speechless, her attempts to minimize me coming up empty. When she eventually murmured, I can't believe you managed to find someone, her incredulity was obvious. Why are you even here? I persisted, not willing to absolve her. And what's with the sudden interest in my life? Yasmin ducked my questions, her uneasiness visible in her tense looks as she tried to think of something to say. Disregarding her silence, I persisted with my inquiries. How are things between you and Finn? Are you staying connected with our parents? What occupies your days? I urged her to respond. Please, just tell me. Yasmin remained tight-lipped, repeating the same refusal to engage. Frustration bubbled within me, evident in my impatience. Your reluctance speaks volumes. If everything were fine, you'd boast, not clam up like this. Then, a thought struck me. Can Finn and you not have children? Did he ever mention it? Yasmin's incredulous gaze met mine, a silent question hanging in the air. She proceeded to reveal the truth. We discovered Finn's infertility during our premarital checkup. Shocked, I questioned why she hadn't disclosed such a crucial detail earlier. In response, Yasmin reverted to her habit of deflecting blame, denying any prior knowledge. Frustration seeped into her words as she accused me of being the one who always shifted responsibility, but my thoughts lingered on the missed opportunity for a vital conversation between her and Finn. When our conversation intensified, a child approached, breaking the tension. Mom, who is she? Linda's innocent question shifted the focus. With a hesitant smile, I introduced Yasmin as my sister. Realizing the complexity of our shared history unfolding before us, we hadn't spoken for years after our argument, but Linda, ever observant, continued to study Yasmin intently. Why didn't you tell me about her before? She asked. I responded with a broad smile, albeit somewhat immaturely, because she always portrayed me as the villain. Wow, that's harsh. Suddenly, Yasmin, who had been eyeing Linda enviously, blurted out, Hey, there's no need to say that in front of a child. I'm just telling the truth. I don't want her to think you're a good person. It's important she knows you're not. You know what? Don't start with your strange ideas. Look, it's just Aunt Yasmin, right? Nothing to be scared of. Yasmin tried to sound sweet when she approached Linda, but Linda hid behind me, cautious. Hey, you there, really? You're going to get upset with a child? I might not be one to talk, but that's pretty immature, I interjected, trying to diffuse the tension. A male voice cut us off just when Yasmin and I were going to dispute once more. I turned around and saw my husband, Arthur. As a family, we had visited the park, and Arthur had left the bench as Yasmin walked up. Who is this? He inquired. Yasmin here, I answered. Hearing Yasmin's name instantly made Arthur's face become sour, a reaction she was unaware of as she grinned broadly and walked over to him. You're Kelly's husband, I see. Whoa, you're really attractive. How come you didn't introduce me to him? Yasmin remarked with joy. I didn't think it was necessary, and I also didn't want you to start trouble again. You're not reliable, I admitted. Oh, please. I'm just Kelly's sister Yasmin. Just as when she introduced Finn, Yasmin continued in a kind voice. Nice to meet you. However, Arthur continued to grimace and listen coldly. I had informed Arthur of Yasmin's prior behavior, which included stealing my fiancé and her protracted harassment history. Hey, how about we get dinner together sometime? Kelly and you haven't spoken for a long. We ought to treasure this relationship, Yasmin said. Arthur politely replied, No, thank you. In contrast to Yasmin's upbeat demeanor, Oh, please don't be chilly, Kelly. Don't you think so? Yasmin looked at me and inquired. Not at all, no way. I had a feeling, developed over the years, that Yasmin was pursuing Arthur in the same way as she had Finn. Arthur shielded Linda and myself at that precise moment by stepping in front of Yasmin. Kelly told me everything there is to know about you, he firmly stated. I'm not sure why you've decided to reach out to us today, but please don't get any more involved in our lives. Your statements are loaded with truth. You degrade Kelly without hesitation. You've been pestering her since you were a young child. You snatched her fiancé, and you strike out at her when you're upset. I was horrified to hear of your previous behavior. Nearly cried. May have been overstated, but the idea is still there. And no, you didn't think anything you did was improper. We got married because, in the end, he decided to marry me. Story ends here, but let's face the facts head on. Did you not start the situation? Yasmin removed her mask and showed her genuine nature. Started What does that mean, exactly? She questioned. Perhaps all Kelly stated wasn't true. You're gullible to think such a woman exists, Yasmin went on, trying to shift the responsibility. Feel free to say whatever you want, but did you engineer that opportunity? Unwilling to allow her to sidestep the questions, I prodded her. Now that it's all in the past, it doesn't matter. Thus, why is it relevant? Yasmin shot back. Well, I should consult our parents by calling them. You discussed your reasons for getting married when it came time to make the announcement of your union, correct? Perhaps they can recall, and maybe I can locate Finn's contact if I look through the old address book. Could I inquire on social media instead? I continued, not letting Yasmin get away with anything. But these aren't merely vacuous warnings, Yasmin retorted. I could ask my parents if I wanted to. And the address book also has Finn's contact information. It's not necessary, I argued. No, it's essential. You lying about me is becoming old to me. You realize how embarrassing you are. Yasmin's mask began to buckle under the strain. It appears like you and Finn are at odds, or that you are divorcing. You don't seem happy at all, I said, seeing her attitude. Why would you say that? Yasmin evaded. It's clear from the way you look. With Finn, things aren't going well, are they? I exerted pressure. Yasmin reluctantly started to relate what had transpired. It appears that irreconcilable conflicts led to her end. Finn's long-ago divorce. She acknowledged that she had become weary of his incessant requests and grievances. She hadn't even disclosed the divorce to our parents. She said, I was just strolling around here when I saw Kelly. I thought I'd annoy her a bit to vent my frustrations. It seemed like a coincidence that we met in this park, but I realized it might be best to avoid letting Linda play here in the future, just in case. I married him because he was a doctor, but his salary wasn't as good as I expected, and he's not that attractive or talkative. I thought about returning him to you, but his contact had changed then. Fortunately, he suggested we divorce. That's terrible. You married him for such shallow reasons, and now you're just pitiful for being dumped, I remarked, glancing at Arthur. It was clear he was repulsed by Yasmin's behavior, a natural reaction, really, but Yasmin didn't seem to care about us. Satisfied with sharing her current situation, she made an unbelievable suggestion, but this might be good timing. Hey, why don't you live with me? I'm lonely being alone. It was astounding to me that she continued to say such things. I was so shocked by her self-centered actions that I had to raise my voice. I would live with you, but why? Also, please stop acting like way. I promise to behave better going forward. What say you? Then, you have my complete distrust. Please just leave us alone, I pleaded, growing irate. What? Can't you listen to your older sister? Yasmin seemed to believe that she could get what she wanted if she persevered. I had had enough of her terrible attitude and was at my wit's end. Arthur, however, interrupted, asking, how can I live with someone like you? Vanish from our view. The youngster is afraid as well. How cruel. What is cruel? The one being cruel here is you. Just you. Please just vanish from our life, I begged. Arthur, who is usually nice, was nowhere to be found. It was obvious he was angry by the way he confronted Yasmin in an angry manner. Since you arrived here, you have been talking absurdities. It's enough. Say something to Kelly. What topic are you discussing? Please don't be so obstinate. Why don't you return to your parents if you're lonely? Arthur insisted. I vehemently object. I would feel as though I was losing to you if they learned about my wretched life. You've moved past caring about that, don't you? I mean, I could care less about your fate. You know this is all your fault, don't you? If you've realized that, please immediately vanish from our view. Several people had gathered to witness our quarrel before we even realized. Oh, this will be a regret, I will ensure it. Perhaps feeling shy of the attention, Yasmin shot back and walked awkwardly out of the situation. A few days later, my smartphone rang when I was watching TV at home by myself. The call originated from a payphone. I was going to ignore it, but the ringing kept coming, so I grudgingly answered. Yasmin was the voice on the other end, and I knew who it was. Kelly, please assist me. How come, suddenly, I'm broke, unable to make ends meet, and forced to move out. I tried to get help from Dad, friends, and even Finn, but nobody is willing to help. My only hope is in you. Could we please start over? I swear that I will no longer act selfishly. It's enough if you just let me stay at your house. Neither do I want to. Why did you believe that I would assist you? Yasmin begged for my assistance in a voice that sounded far weaker than previously. I didn't have to pay attention to her Though, it must be fate that they would cross paths at the park again. Surely, Yasmin begged, I thought you would definitely help me. Enough of that. I find it quite bothersome when you fabricate these links. I'm not going to assist you. Your financial situation is irrelevant to me, and if others are unwilling to assist you, it's likely due to your previous behavior. You ought to think back on your previous actions. But I'll think about speaking with the cops or a lawyer if you get in touch with me again. You get it? Honestly, I doubted the police or a lawyer would take action over this. It was all just a bluff. However, Yasmin seemed frightened by those words and hastily ended the call. Since then, there has been no action from Yasmin. I don't know what she's doing now. Maybe she's finally realized that no one will help her regardless of their connection. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. After all her selfish behavior, she deserves to face the consequences. My husband and I continue to live a happy life. After the broken engagement, I was in despair, wondering what my future held, but now, I'm grateful to be married to Arthur, a wonderful man, and we have a happy family. I hope we can continue to walk towards a bright future together. I reflect on this while looking at our family photo. Above is today's story. If you like it, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. See you next time.